Okay, so this is my third try on this Astro-Tidbit, and I am changing what I was talking about. I did two videos talking about something, and I'm just going to change it because this is my third try. Because I was debating between two topics to bring up in this Astro-Tidbit, and I was going with the first one, but I'll talk about that in a couple of days. Right now, I'm going to talk about what I was going to talk about later, which is this is my third time doing this Astro-Tidbit, and Mercury goes retrograde on March the 5th, and there's a slowdown of energy. And if you are noticing that the energy is slowing down, and I'll talk about that in 1 second, sorry, let me just adjust this. Should have done it before. And if you are doing things in such a way that they somehow need to be redone or resubmitted, there's a form you're filling out and you're too hasty in submitting it, but it needs to be done. You're submitting something, you take something, it needs to be redone. I'm trying to do a video, use technology to communicate very Mercury things. And for whatever reason, the first one had to be aborted, the second one had to be aborted. I'm doing it the third time. And with Mercury, this 3 times as a charm kind of with retrograde is part of it. You know, Mercury goes direct, retrograde, and direct again. So this idea that things that you should just have to do once, you're having to do 3 times over for some reason, is very much like this energy. We're not in the gnarly phase of the chaos yet, and that may not start to occur for another 2 or 3 days. One of the advantages of things slowing down, and if you're feeling that already, and I certainly am, is that for a few days it might actually make you more productive, because after 2 months of having all planets direct and the sheer hysteria of the forward movement, the sheer exaggeration of the forward movement, the idea that we've been pushed through the birth canal, particularly at the end of January, and we are in our infancy, sitting in a new space, is very present. And having one of the planets slow down, and especially a planet we rely on so heavily, communication, technology, transactions, customer service, everything we do, commuting, is helpful insofar as it might just give us a little bit of space to catch up, and it might actually, for the next few days, only for a few days, make us feel that much more productive. In addition, the moon, from the full moon, is preparing to become smaller and smaller and smaller till we have the new moon on March the 6th. So it's time to wrap things up. It's time to get things done. It's time to look back at the new moon on February the 4th, February the 5th, and start to close out the cycle. So in some ways, it could be a very productive couple of days, 2 or 3 days, where you find that there's a lot that you're able to try and get done and make progress on. And the slowing down part of the energy is actually somehow helpful in getting that done, because you're not being buffeted around so much by your own exaggerated forward movement and other people's forward movement. In addition, you will start to find that things are taking longer to get done, and there's a kind of a wires crossed craziness to getting things done, things having to be redone. So if you're feeling that, I'm going to keep this particular video on Mercury going retrograde somewhat positive and upbeat. As frustrating as it is to do 3 times, I'm going to trust that this is the message that needs to go out today. So that's what I'm going to do. And in a couple of days, I'll talk about what I was going to talk about today, which was determined not to happen. So just keep an eye out for these feelings, these events, these slowdowns that are starting to happen, and take advantage of the fact that you might have a few days in which you can actually be productive and kind of wrap things up and say and acknowledge that January and February have now put you in a certain place, and February especially is now putting you in a certain place for a few days, where before things become a little too reflective and before you really have to focus on issues perhaps related to 2015, 2016, you can make some progress and start to wrap up some things and get things off your to-do list before next week. So I will leave it at that, and I'll be back in touch in a couple of days.